Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's small business webinar. My name is Paul LaChapelle. I'm with Montana State University Extension, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the webinar. Before we get started, I'd just like to remind you all that we are recording today's webinar, and we'll be posting the archive, that link to that recording on our website, and you can see that website address in the Q&A box there that I've posted. Today's webinar is sponsored by MSU Extension Community Development, the Montana Economic Developers Association, and our good friends at the Small Business Development Centers, which are affiliated with the Montana Department of Commerce and U.S. Small Business Administration. We get additional support from the Great Falls Development Authority and the University of Montana. If you have any tech support questions or comments, feel free to call or email, and I've posted the contacts there in the Q&A box as well. You will have an opportunity to provide questions or comments anytime during the presentation. So our presenter today is encouraging questions throughout the presentation, and I'll just interrupt the presentation with those questions or comments when they come up. So feel free to type those into the box. Again, it's that small white box at the bottom of the Q&A pod there at the bottom lower left of your screen. You can also download today's presentation. It's in the file download box. Just click on that and click the download file button. So with that, I'd like to introduce today's presenter. Geraldine Carter is a business strategist for CPAs. She's an ICF Associate Certified Coach and a pumpkin plan strategist, and she's going to tell you more about what all of that means. So with that, it's my pleasure to welcome Geraldine.
All right, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. No, not yet. And thanks so much for being here, and thank you, Paul, for this opportunity to present to business owners across the state of Montana. Looking forward to our time together. And we're here today because I think that many of us, you, share a common struggle, which is to make your business more profitable. And a lot of business owners struggle with, how do I make more money without working so hard? So many business owners are working, they quit their full-time jobs for free time and flexibility, only to end up working crazy hours. So we end up having the flexibility to work all the time. And the money sometimes doesn't follow quite in the way that we hope it to. And when I ask the Googles, how do I grow my business? It comes back with 1.3 million ways to grow your business. And if you, of course, you're not going to look through all the articles, but if you look through any of these, there are 8 ways, there are 9 ways, there are 16 ways, and some of them might be good ideas, and some of them might be terrible ideas. And if there are even 9 ways, how do you pick which one you should do first, right? Your plate is already full. You're already running in 27 different directions, trying to get everything taken care of, because you're the one who knows how to run the show and solve all the problems. And there's just not enough time in the day to take a step back and ask yourself strategically what makes the most sense here. And I think that there is a simpler way. So let me go back to that one. So let me see if this makes that go away. That's not what I wanted to do at all. So there's an easier way, right? There's a simpler strategy for how to make your business grow and grow profitably. And before I get into it, I just want to give you a little bit more background on what Paul was saying. And primarily I work with CPAs to help them grow their income while working fewer hours and create a simple, clear, effective strategy for growing and reduce the complexity and the unpredictability, because there's just a lot to do when you're running a business. And there's a lot to know. And but a little bit about my background. I've always come from the sort of numbers, money, spreadsheets direction. I have an engineering degree from Cornell University. Paul mentioned that I'm an associate certified coach by the International Coaching Federation, which most people don't know, nor would you know exists. But coaches are governed by a licensing body. And I have a podcast called Epic Business Growth for CPAs, And underneath that, as a certified pumpkin plan strategist, I use their tools to help make a clear strategy for business owners to grow. And if you've never heard of the Pumpkin Plan, it's an excellent book by an author named Mike Michalowicz. He's written a number of business books for small business owners and entrepreneurs in really simple terms. You may have heard of a book called Profit First or Clockwork or The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. And with his books, he trains people to implement the tools that he lays out in his books. So that's what being a pumpkin plan strategist is about. So when you started out in your business, you probably had this moment of a great idea and you thought, this is it. I'm going out on my own. I'm leaving my full-time job and I can do this by myself. There's no reason for me to work for the man. And I'm going to do this on my own. I'm going to make 4 times as much money and work half the time. And you've got all this excitement and all this confidence, and you go off on your own to be an entrepreneur, a small business owner. And you know how to deliver the service, you know what you're good at, and your vision for your business is you working in your business, delivering your service for your clients. And at the moment, that seems like enough. So you set out. With your enthusiasm, you tell all your friends and family, and so money starts to come in, right? You get your first series of customers, money starts flowing in the door, and you think, this is great, right? Awesome, I love being a business owner. 6 months go by, or 3 years go by, and you're working, and you're doing all the roles, right? All the things inside your business. You're managing the money, you're doing the marketing, you're figuring out your branding, you're also delivering the service itself, you're doing the shopping and the buying and the inventory tracking, managing the point of sale, all of the things. You're running around. Sometimes it feels like a chicken with their head cut off. Not always, but sometimes. It's the nature of being a business owner. It's sometimes. And it's okay, you're excited, it's working, you're on your own, your money is growing, and you feel like you're starting to get some traction. There comes a moment where a crisis hits. And a crisis can be something like, you're not going to make payroll this month, or your inventory is hung up somewhere in shipment, and it's on a cargo ship in Long Beach and it hasn't made it through customs. Or maybe if you run a restaurant, you've lost electricity, the refrigerator ran out, you lost a bunch of food. Or something happens where you just don't have enough money to pay your suppliers and your bills. And you're in crisis mode and you go, uh-oh, now what? And you will do anything in that moment to keep your business alive. So we do what we call survival maneuvers, right? Anything to get out of the crisis. Doesn't matter what it is, and it doesn't matter whether it takes you closer to or farther away from your original vision. You just need to get out of the crisis, right? You need to get enough money to get payroll covered. You need to figure out a way to get your shipment through Long Beach, even if it means going out and buying some temporary material or who knows what. You will be resourceful in any number of ways to solve your problem. And what ends up happening when we get in this situation is we get ourselves into what's called a survival trap. So that's what I'm going to be digging into today, is what is the survival trap? What does it look like? What is the price you pay of being in the survival trap? How to recognize you're in it and how to get out of it. Because so many business owners get caught in the survival trap of just barely keeping their heads above water, or maybe not even above water. They know that they're underwater and they still can't seem to get afloat. So the survival trap can look like a lot of different things to different people, to different business owners. And before I just dive in, I want to ask any of you if so far this resonates. Who recognizes the feeling of barely surviving, or having moments of feeling like your head is barely above water, or having a moment of crisis when you're like, oh no. And that's probably not the word you use, but this is not working. I've got a real problem. I've got some serious fires, and you call your spouse and you say, honey, I'm not going to be home tonight until 11, right? And you get home at 11 and you're still cranking away at your computer until 3 a.m. Who recognizes, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, that challenge. You can just go ahead and type it in the chat window if that resonates. So we get in this state of crisis, and the most important thing to do is to solve the urgent crisis, right? It's to put out the fire. So what do? And I think the best way to illustrate this is to show you an example. So I was having a conversation with a woman yesterday, and she was a cafe owner. I wasn't having a conversation with her. She was actually on a webinar being coached by somebody else. And she wanted to be a cafe owner, and she was a cafe owner. And the vision was for her cafe to be a gathering point, that it would be a place where people would come, they would enjoy a cup of coffee and a meal, and it would be a place for conversation, it would be a place to share ideas, and for people to get together. And she starts up her cafe and fills it with tables and chairs and coffee and food and the whole bit. And a year in, she's finding that her income isn't coming around. She's barely hanging on. So what are some of the things when she's in a moment of crisis that she does? When she doesn't have enough money to pay her employees, she chooses to pay rent late. When she runs out of, I shouldn't laugh, but when she actually runs out of her coffee supply of beans, she runs to Albertsons and buys coffee beans. The most you can get is a 2-pound bag at Albertsons, and she buys them at retail price. She could go to Costco where they're cheaper, but she doesn't have time. So she's got to go get them at Albertsons, which is around the corner. So she makes last-minute purchases at retail prices in small quantities, which can end up being 5 times more expensive than if she had enough time to get ahead of it and could make a purchase and have it delivered off a Cisco truck. She'd make the shopping trips herself, right, rather than sending somebody, one of her staff members, to go get them. So this costs her a bunch of time because now she's walking on foot either to Albertsons or running over there, what have you, spending time doing stuff that she has staff that could do, but she is in such a crisis and panic mode that she doesn't think clearly about having somebody else do it. And she says, never mind, she thinks to herself, I'll just do it myself. It's faster. I know what I want. I know what I'm getting. I've got my credit card. I know how much we can afford to spend. I'll just do it myself. Or she might forego, and she did forego, paying her staff members who were family members. And she would negotiate with her daughters who worked with her in the cafe, I can't pay you this week, but is it okay if I pay you next week? Right? So paying your staff members late in an effort to save money. Or cutting staff hours and doing the work all herself. So these are all the ways that she was coping with the crisis of not having enough money in her cafe. Does any of this resonate so far for anybody in your own business? What are the ways that you're coping with crises? What are some of the decisions that you make that take you away from your vision? And where her time would be better spent and where she would bring in income would be figuring out how to set up food to go. It's not exactly in line with her vision, but at least it's in line with her vision of getting food, selling food. It brings in money and at least gets her closer to her original vision of being a cafe owner and a gathering place. It doesn't satisfy the criteria of the gathering place, but at least it brings in money in a way that makes more sense than cutting staff hours and getting the work done herself. She could find a way to sell coffee to go, similar thing. She could host private events, which aren't quite as in line with being a gathering place in a public way, but it still is a gathering place and it still brings in income. Or she could also find a fancy or have enough money to make a purchase for a fancy Italian coffee maker that makes better product at higher margins. But she doesn't have the time right now to dedicate thinking about where to even get that coffee maker, how much it's going to cost to get it set up. Nor does she have time to determine the most profitable hours of operation and thereby reduce her open hours to save money and only be open during the most profitable hours. Right? She's always caught in this crisis, running around making shopping trips herself and so on. So as business owners, we do what's called survival trap maneuvers, right? Anything to either save money or bring in money urgently to solve a quick crisis. And it might not just be around money, but money is often a common factor. So how do we take this over to your business? So I got the advanced, I know there's some business owner, I have an idea of what kinds of businesses are, what kind of business owners are on this call. And I think we have an outfitter, and I think we have an app developer. So before we jumped on, I penciled out a quick example. So say, for example, you're an outfitter and you do fly fishing trips. And your vision is to take groups of 6 and 8 families on 3 and 4 day fly fishing trips. And things are going mostly well, but there are some shoulder seasons, or there are some parts of the season where money runs low, right? Because interest is low. It's not the time of year where fly fishing is in high demand. So the crisis is we need some income, right? So what might be some survival trap maneuvers that take you away from your original vision? So some possibilities are things like you could add a hiking day. Say a family says, we want to do 3 days of fly fishing and 1 day of hiking. Can you take us hiking? And you think to yourself, well, it's not really what I do, but okay, I'm going to make it work. I need the money, and I think this makes sense, so we'll do it. And you figure out a way to add a day of hiking. So you might put that on the vertical bar, either up or down. It's not really taking you super far away from your vision. It's not really getting you directly to your vision, but it's good enough for now. Or somebody might come to you with a request for whitewater rafting. So this is pretty close to fly fishing, still using boats, still on the river. It's not fly fishing, but it's pretty close. So this might be the sort of 45-degree angle. It's more in the direction of your vision, not entirely in the direction of your vision, but good enough for now. What you probably wouldn't do is if somebody came to you and said, we want to go horse packing for 4 or 5 days. Can you take us? And you would think to yourself, excuse me. Apparently having a drain issue in the background. And you would think to yourself, I'm not going to buy horses right now. I can't buy horses, and that's entirely not what I want to be doing. So that's going to take you away from your vision. So these are some examples of things that you might do in your business in order to, the buying horses example might take you categorically away from your vision. The whitewater rafting might be close enough for now. So another one is that there's an app developer, builds apps. So I kind of had to fill in some gaps here. So I made up a story about designing apps for companies like a brick and mortar store like Target, right? Because you can design apps all over the place, but the question is, what kind of apps do you want to design? So what's your vision for the kind of apps you want to be designing? And one of the places that business owners can get stuck is they can start out being too broad and not narrow over time. And because there's such a breadth of, just in this case example, of apps, what might you, where do you want to narrow within app development, right? Because it's a huge field. So some examples are, if you wanted to do, say somebody came to you and said, I want to do a game app, but you do apps for brick and mortar stores like a Target app. You think, that's kind of close, good enough for now, right? But say somebody came to you and said, I want you to do custom in-house software. Would you take it? Say somebody came to you and said, I want you to develop a website. Would you take it? Where would these other ideas fit on your survival trap maneuver map? And only you know the answer, right? And it's dependent on what your vision is. And what happens is that over time, you start to narrow down, you start to absolutely stop doing survival trap moves that are categorically in the opposite direction, do fewer of those, and you might start to do things that are kind of either straight up or straight down, or at least getting you more in the right direction. And you start over time eliminating the stuff that takes you away from your original vision. So, if there are questions so far, comments, please enter them in the chat. Otherwise, I want to kind of put this into steps for you so that you can walk away with 3 clear and simple steps for profitable growth, and actually take this survival trap map, print one out, and ask yourself, okay, what's my original vision? What's my role in it? What do you want your role to be in your company? Do you want to be the wearer of 27 hats? Or do you want to be the wearer of 5 hats? Or do you want to be the wearer of 2 hats? Which hats do you want to wear? And as your business grows, your role will become more and more narrow as you bring people in underneath you who have more specified roles in your business.
We might have lost Geraldine. Stand by, everybody. I think we might have lost her audio, so hang tight, everybody, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can address this. Hi all, it seems we've lost Geraldine. I don't know if she had a connection issue on her end. If you could just hang tight for a moment, we'll see if she can log back in, and I will keep you posted as soon as I hear from her. But hang tight for just a minute and we'll see if we can get this going. If not, we may need to call it a day. So I'll update you as soon as I have any news. Hi all, we're still working on the issue. Please hang tight and I'll update you as soon as we have some information. Thanks for your patience, and hopefully we'll have this resolved in just a moment. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Hi, everybody. We have Geraldine on the line, and hopefully you can hear her. Go ahead, Geraldine, and take it away from where you left off.
Okay. So hopefully I'm picking up where I left off with crisis and vision. And what happens is if we don't know what our vision is, when a crisis comes along, we make any number of maneuvers that can take us away from the direction that we want to be going. Paul, what would really help me is if you can tell me the last thing you recall me saying, because I don't want to repeat 5 minutes of content that folks have already heard.
Sure. Why don't you just move on from the crisis and vision? You were on the first of three goals.
Yep, let me get there. The first of three. Okay. Let's see. Tell me if... Did we do the cafe owner? We can move on from the... So you want to do... We'll go to the 3 steps for profitable growth.
There you go. And are you able to advance your slides, or would you like me to, Geraldine?
Okay, so it sounds like you'll need to advance my slides.
I'll do it then. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Go ahead and keep talking.
So 3 steps to profitable growth. So how do you get yourself in a place of profitable growth? It doesn't have to be that complicated. The first thing, though, is you absolutely need to be clear on your vision and your role in it. If you don't know your vision, just like Lewis Carroll and Yogi Berra say, any path will do. If you don't know where you're going, any path will get you there. If you don't know where you're going, any path will do. And you've got to know your role in it. Do you want to have the role of 27 hats? Do you want to wear 5 hats? Which 5 hats do you want to wear? Probably when you started out in your business, you didn't imagine that you would be running around all the time doing everything. So you have to know what your role in your business is. Otherwise, you're going to end up doing everything because that just ends up being the default position. So number 2 is identify your predictable survival trap maneuver. Know the steps that take you away from your vision. Know the steps that take you away from your vision and the steps that don't yet get you closer to your vision. This way, when a crisis hits, you can resist the urge to go running to the store to buy things in small quantities at retail prices to solve your immediate problem. You can avoid saying yes to opportunities that are in the polar opposite direction of the one that you want to take your business in just for a quick influx of cash. And the third thing is identify the path and steps that get you closer to your vision. So this is where it's really helpful to print out the survival trap map with the crisis and the vision on it so that you can put all the survival trap moves that you do when your business is in crisis and place them on the map so that you know what steps are going to get you closer to your vision and which steps are going to take you away from your vision. So it can really be that simple. Is it easy? No, of course it's not easy, but it can be simple, and it does take time. It does take time to stop doing the things that take you in the wrong direction and do fewer of the things that take you away and start replacing survival trap moves with steps that take you closer to your vision. So if you want more help with this, I would be more than happy to jump on a short call with you. For people who are interested, you can put 25 minutes on my calendar, and we will go through the survival trap maneuvers that you might be making and clarify your vision for the business that you want to create so that you can create your business with less chaos, less stress, and more profitability. So those are free for listeners, both for people who are listening live and catching the audio recording. So I hope to see you on my calendar. And the last question is, you don't have to put up with spiral. It doesn't have to be a thing that has to exist necessarily in your business. You can get out. The question is, how much more do you want to put up with? So if you want to start getting out of the survival trap and get out of the spin, please put time in my calendar. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. So with that, I realize that we're a few minutes over time. Sorry for the tech issues, and happy to take questions and hear key takeaways from folks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Geraldine. And I've put up your contact information, the last slide, with your email address and your website, your LinkedIn site, and your phone number. So if anyone has questions, feel free to type them in the Q&A box there. Um, I did also show the slide that contains the it's at the top an easy way to start simplifying. Is there anything you want to say about that slide?
An easy way to start simplifying. So simplifying is something that can and should be done. One of the things that I see quite commonly is that business owners' revenue streams tend to be in too many directions. They tend to have not too much money, but money coming in from too many directions, and they tend to not have a great handle on which revenue streams have the highest profit margin or are the most profitable, either per time or per product, what have you. So when we evaluate their revenue streams, we can start to see which ones are most worth their time to put the gas on and which revenue streams they should begin to cut out. And when we do that, we really start simplifying their business, and it makes a lot of things a lot easier.
Great. Geraldine, I've got your slide up again, the last slide with your contact information. And I'm assuming folks can contact you during business hours via your mobile phone and your email address there.
That's right.
Any other contact information you want to provide, or any other closing remarks?
Always happy to hear from people and happy to help people with business challenges. Being a business owner myself, I know just how hard it can be, and I love helping people get out of the struggle because it doesn't have to be so much of a struggle. So hope to hear from folks. And thank you, Paul, for the opportunity to share with your audience today.
You bet. Well, thank you, Geraldine. Thanks for everybody for joining us. I'd just like to announce April 2nd will be our next webinar. Benjamin Hobbs will be our presenter. He's the Special Assistant to President Trump with the Domestic Policy Council and their efforts with affordable housing, urban revitalization, entrepreneurship, and homelessness. Again, he'll be speaking Thursday, April 2nd, same time. The title of his talk is Using Opportunity Zones to Start or Grow Your Business. So I will be sending information about the link and of today's recording, and also about the upcoming webinars. With that, thanks again. I do apologize for the technical problems, and we'll do our best to make sure that that doesn't happen again in the future. Geraldine, thank you for joining us, and for all of you, have a great Thursday, and we'll see you next month. Bye now.